Hello friends, it's Lisa, and welcome to part 3, episode 3 of my 5-star prediction videos from this year. So at the very beginning of the year, I put out a video chatting about some books, both backlisted and new releases, that I thought I was going to read this year and give 5 stars. And throughout the year, I've been putting out these vlogs, reading some of those books, and today is the 3rd episode of that. It's been a long time coming. I've been working on this particular 5-star predictions vlog for a while, but it's finally here, and I'm so excited to continue doing these videos. It's so much fun to really put my predictions of myself and my reading taste to the test. And like I said, this is the 3rd episode, the 3rd part, so if you're curious about any of the other books that I have read throughout the year and my thoughts on them, if I gave them 5 stars or not, I will have the 1st and 2nd parts of this series linked below in the description if you want to check them out. Also, sorry if the lighting in this video is constantly changing. It's been sleeting, raining, snowing, cloudy, sunny. It's been every single type of weather in the past hour. So I apologize for the lighting or anything in this video, but yes, today is the 3rd part of my 5-star prediction series. I'm going to be reading 2 more books off of that list and seeing if they're 5 stars or not. But before we get into the TBR for this particular 5-star predictions video, I want to quickly thank the sponsor of this video, which is Ana Luisa. So Ana Luisa is a high quality jewelry brand that I have worked with many times before. I'm sure at this point you all know how much I love and recommend Ana Luisa. But Ana Luisa is a high quality jewelry brand, like I said, but without the luxury price tag. They have jewelry that is high quality and also very sustainable while being at a very reasonable price point. And that is another thing that I love about Ana Luisa, is that their jewelry, the pieces themselves, as well as the packaging, the little pouches that the jewelry comes in, as well as the shipping, packaging, everything like that is so sustainable. They are both carbon neutral and water neutral, and I just think that that's so important and so great for a brand to be doing. I also love that I can count on Ana Luisa to send these high quality pieces. I know that whatever they send is going to be the highest quality. I've never had any jewelry break or anything. It always holds up to what I'm doing when I'm wearing it, and they're just such great pieces to wear in any situation. But Ana Luisa did send me 3 pieces to show you all. So the first one is this necklace. This is the Sienna necklace in black. There is another version of this that is white, and I feel like that's normally what I would have gone for, but I did want to get something a little bit different and kind of get something different for my jewelry collection, so I decided to go with the black one, and I really like it. I also love the star detailing in the center of the pendant. I feel like it gives very Midnight's Taylor Swift vibes. But yeah, an absolutely beautiful necklace, and so happy to have something a little bit different in my collection. I also am currently wearing one of the pieces of earrings that I got. I have 2 pairs, and my thought with both of these earrings that I have from Ana Luisa was to just have some classic staple pieces, just some earrings that I can throw on with any outfit. I can dress them up, dress them down, and they will work. So the first pair are these hoops. These are the low small hoops. So these are just some small gold hoops, and I feel like just hoops in general are just such a staple and can be worn in any situation. You can dress them up, dress them down, and that's why I really wanted to have some hoops in my collection. I don't think I have any, so I thought that these would be the perfect staple piece. And then I also have the Tiara Mini. These are gold stud earrings, and I just thought that these were so stunning, so simple, but so perfect for an everyday earring. I definitely think you could dress these up as well, but I thought that these would be perfect for a more everyday type of look. If I want to put on a pair of earrings but I didn't want to put on anything too sparkly or anything, I thought that these would be perfect for an everyday look. I also think that these would look really nice stacked with other earrings if you have more than one piercing in your ears. I used to have a second piercing, but I think one of them closed up. But I think that these would look really nice with these hoops, or just on their own. I think that they also will just make a great everyday earring just by themselves. So very happy with both of these earrings. I think that they're going to be great everyday classic staple pieces in my earring collection. But I absolutely love these pieces that they sent me, and if you like any of these or anything else on the Ana Luisa website, I'm going to have a link to their website at the top of the description, but also you can use my code WITHLOVE20 to get 20% off of your order. So I highly recommend taking advantage of that 20% off discount, especially with the holiday season coming up. I'm sure a lot of you like me are trying to plan out what you want to get people for the holiday season, and I think Ana Luisa would make such a beautiful gift for someone in your life or for yourself. Treat yourself. That's also valid. But yeah, you all can check out Ana Luisa using the link at the top of my description. But thank you so much to Ana Luisa for sponsoring today's video. And now we can get into the TBR for this 5-star predictions vlog. But like I said, throughout all of these vlogs, I've been choosing one backlisted title and one new release to read in each vlog. So for the backlisted title in this vlog, I'm going to be reading Emma by Jane Austen. I read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, I think 3.5 years ago now at this point, and I absolutely love Pride and Prejudice. It is one of my favorite books of all time, and so I knew I wanted to read more from Jane Austen, read more of her books. What's up, Sam? But yeah, with my love of Pride and Prejudice, I knew I wanted to read more from Jane Austen, and I knew Emma was one that was very, very popular and very beloved, so I decided to add this on my 5-star predictions. It's also a classic, which is pretty different from the rest of the books that I predicted would be 5 stars, so I'm happy to have some variety within that list, and we will see if I end up liking it or not. And as for the new release for this video, I'm going to be reading The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armis. I definitely feel like within the past year or so, I have really gotten into reading romance books, and what I think really kicked it off for me and what made me want to read all of the romance books was The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armis. And when I saw that she was coming out with a new romance book this year, I just knew I needed to read it, and I was pretty confident that I was going to love it after loving The Spanish Love Deception so much. So these are the 2 books that I'm reading in this vlog. Very big romance vibes, very different romance vibes, but romance vibes nonetheless. It'll be a battle of the classic romance versus a contemporary, more modern romance. We will see which one will reign supreme. But yes, this is the TBR for this video, and let's just hop into the vlog and see whether these are 5 stars or not. Okay, so I have started reading The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armis, and I wanted to check in, give a bit of a synopsis about this book, tell you what it's all about, and some initial thoughts and feelings. So this book, you're following Rosie, who is actually Catalina's best friend from The Spanish Love Deception, and she has recently just made a very big life decision by quitting her job to pursue a romance writer career. She's writing romance books. She wrote a romance book, it did super well, she ended up getting a book deal, it got traditionally published, and now she has a deal to write a second book, and she is really struggling. She's having a lot of writer's block. But not only that, she has an issue with her apartment, so she goes to stay at Lena's apartment while Lena is away and is kind of there temporarily while her apartment gets sorted out. But what she doesn't know is that Catalina has already offered her apartment to her cousin Lucas. And Rosie may or may not have a teeny little crush on Lucas just because of what Catalina has told her about him, and also like maybe kind of sort of stalking his Instagram. And they both actually just decide to both stay at the apartment, and then Lucas learns of her like having writer's block and having struggles writing her next book. So then he offers to take her on fake dates, have this like fake sort of romance to help spark some ideas, to help her get some inspiration for her book. And so it's going to be like a fake dating sort of situation. So I am on chapter 11, page 132, and so far, like where I just kind of left off is where the like fake dating plan has just kind of been made. So it did take a little while to kind of get into the actual like main plot of this story, but so far it's been kind of setting up these characters and why they're at Lena's apartment, why they're staying there, them making the decision to both stay there, them kind of like learning about each other, starting this kind of friendship, and then the fake dating situation kind of comes up. So it's been a bit of just kind of like establishing their dynamic so far and establishing how this is going to work for them. But now that I'm like at the point where the fake dating and all of the fake dates are going to start happening, I'm a little bit more invested. I'm definitely like really excited to keep going. I wasn't like not enjoying it at first, but it did take me like the first like handful of chapters. I was just kind of like, it was just fine. Like I was just reading it. I was just like, okay, like I'm not hating it. I'm just kind of like, I can see that everything's being like set up. But now that we're like in it, I'm enjoying it. I also am going to try my best while reading this book to not compare it to The Spanish Love Deception. I kind of had a few moments when I was first reading this book that I was like, wow, what if I just like reread The Spanish Love Deception instead? Not that this was bad, it was just like, it was reminding me of things from that book, and obviously like Lena and Aaron are characters in this universe still and they get mentioned, which to me, that's cinema, you know? So I was just like, wow, maybe I'll just reread The Spanish Love Deception. But now that I'm like in the plot and everything, I'm excited to see where it goes, and I'm hoping that I don't like compare it too much. I'm gonna try my best not to, because I don't think that's really fair. Something else I'm also kind of liking is that this is dual point of view. So we have gotten a couple of chapters from Lucas's point of view. We're seeing some of his thoughts, some of his like feelings, and certain things that he's thinking in these certain moments, and it's definitely mostly in Rosie's point of view, but it has been interesting to get that back and forth. And I don't think I've really read that many romances so far where we've gotten both characters' points of view. I feel like it's always been from one perspective, so I'm really excited to see how that plays out. But also, like, imagine if she had done that with the Spanish love deception. Imagine how annoying I would have been if we had gotten Erin's point of view. We are actually, she's releasing, like, if you pre-order the Spanish love deception, that's like part of the like incentive is that you'll be sent a few chapters from Erin's point of view from the Spanish love deception, and I'm literally going to be so annoying when I read those. But yeah, anyway, I'm liking the kind of dual point of view that we're getting with both of these characters. I'm excited to see how that plays into this fake dating situation and how they like both think and view certain situations. I'm just really excited to continue on. I read like a decent amount of this last night. I feel like now that I'm like actually in the main plot, it's gonna go a lot faster. I'm so excited to see where it goes. So far, I'm having a great time, and I cannot wait to keep going. Okay, so sorry if you can hear construction outside, but I am on page 225, which is chapter 18 of the American Roommate Experiment, and I don't have, I think, that much left. Like, I'm a little over halfway, but I think I only have like 150-ish pages left, so I feel like I might finish either tonight or tomorrow, and I wanted to check in one final time before I finish the book. Guys, I'm loving it. I don't know, again, I'm really trying not to compare it to the Spanish love deception, but I feel like maybe if you've read the Spanish love deception, you're wondering how I'm feeling in comparison. I don't know if I'm loving it as much as the Spanish love deception, but I'm having such a good time. I'm like squealing and just like I don't know what this is, what this emotion is. Excited? Invested? I don't know. In just this book and this relationship and the characters, and I'm just like, there's been so many moments where I've just like been like doing this with the book and like stopping mid sentence and just doing this because I'm overwhelmed. I'm just really liking it so far. I'm having such a good time. I love the like experimental dates that they're going on. I love how not smart they are, how they're like, oh, they're just experiments. It's not real, but like it's totally real. I'm convinced. And just like the effort Lucas is putting into these experimental dates, I'm like, they're not even technically real, but this is the effort he is getting into, like, just for these. Like, imagine a man like him. I don't know. It's so much fun. It's so cute. I'm just definitely like super invested in the relationship and just think it's so cute. And I'm really enjoying seeing Rosie and Lucas like get to know each other and start to pick up on things about each other and like starting to recognize when they say certain things or do certain things that they actually mean something else, or just like picking up on what certain like facial expressions mean and just like picking up on those little things about each other. And it's just, I'm just having a great time. We also, and this is not a spoiler because Elena Armas has also been saying this like on Twitter and stuff, like she has said this herself, that Catalina and Erin make appearances in this book, and they do. I can confirm. Erin showed up on the page and I had to put it down. I was like, I don't even want to continue on reading. Like, I was nervous about the reaction that I was going to have, but I just love them so much. I obviously love Erin, a man, but Lena is so funny. Like, some of her like dialogue in this book is so funny, and I mean, I do remember her being funny from the Spanish love deception, but I'm just like, I'm having such a great time seeing them as well, and seeing them interact with Rosie and Lucas, and seeing Erin and Lucas talk and interact. Too powerful, too powerful. Elena Armas is a dangerous woman. So yeah, I definitely like am really enjoying this. It definitely took me until they started doing like the fake experimental dates for me to be like, oh, okay, like, and getting really into it. But now that we're in that, and now that like there's that tension of like, this is fake or is it, I'm having a great time. I just love fake dating in any capacity. But yeah, having the best time. I was nervous going into this book if it was going to be 5 stars, simply because I thought I'd be comparing it to the Spanish love deception and I didn't know if it would be as good, and I still honestly at this point don't know if it's gonna be 5 stars, but I'm just having the best time and I don't want it to really end, which is how I felt about the Spanish love deception. I don't feel like as strongly as I did with the Spanish love deception, but I definitely like am having similar feelings of just like having a good time and not really wanting it to end. So unfortunately it will have to come to an end eventually, and I'm hoping to finish it soon, so the next time we check in will be when I have finished the book. Sam's trying to get in the cabinet. Alright, hi. Long time no chat. So it's actually, November. It's been so long since I've updated. That ARC copy that I was reading has been long gone out of my possession. I now have the final finished copy of the book. I've just decided it's now time to finally talk about this book. I've kind of been putting it off because I've been really going back and forth on my feelings on this book. I kind of the first couple weeks after finishing it, I was really going back and forth. I think after finishing it initially, I was like, oh my god, so good, 5 stars. But as time kind of went on and I separated myself a little bit from the book, my rating just kind of started getting lower and lower. And I still like this book. I still had such a good time with it. I do think being able to annotate the copy that we read and write in it and underline things, people who write in their books, y'all are on something. I'm still too scared to write my books. I'm scared of the commitment of it. We don't need to dissect that. We don't need to have a therapy session about it. But that definitely added to my experience, being able to really get invested in the story and underline and tab things, and also read through Darian's annotations as well and know that Casey was going to be reading both of our annotations. That really added to, I think, the whole experience of this book and made it so much more fun. And someday I definitely need to be able to look through that art copy because I'm the only one now that hasn't been able to see our full annotations because Darian has that arc back in her possession, so definitely need to do that at some point. But anyway, I do think annotating it really added to the experience and made it so much more fun, and especially because me, Casey, and Darian all really loved The Spanish Love Deception, so we were all really excited for this book. But I did enjoy this book. I thought it was really fun. I did think that there were some really cute and funny moments. It did have some cheesy moments as well, but I kind of expected that. The Spanish Love Deception has some cheesy moments as well. I think it's so interesting to see people who have read both The Spanish Love Deception and this book, and people who loved The Spanish Love Deception but maybe didn't love this one as much and be like, what happened with this? I definitely think you can tell it's the same author. You can tell that it's the same person writing these things. There definitely are, as much as I love The Spanish Love Deception, there's definitely some cringy and cheesy moments in that book as well. I know I've said this so many times when talking about The Spanish Love Deception, but I think that was one of those books I just read at the perfect time. It provided the best distraction ever. It was just so perfect the time that I read it, and it really distracted me and made me happy, and it just brought a smile to my face at a time where I really needed it. So I think that's a big reason why I love that book so much. And who knows if I would have loved The Spanish Love Deception if I didn't read it at that time that I did. But to me, this one still wasn't as good as The Spanish Love Deception, but there definitely are some similarities, and you can tell, I use this expression when explaining it to Darian, explaining my thoughts, is that you can tell it's cut from the same cloth, you know? It's been so long since I've read this book, and also the last time I updated you all on this, but I think I talked about how this book is dual point of view, so we see both Lucas and Rosie's thoughts, and there definitely were times where I really liked that. I liked being able to see both of their perspectives and the way they viewed certain things. There were just some moments where I was like, are they both feeling the tension? Are they both feeling the same things? It was fun to see both of their perspectives and both of their thoughts on certain scenes and certain moments. Oh my god, Sam is causing a ruckus. I'm just trying to talk about this romance book. But also at the same time, I think that might have taken away some of the tension and excitement for me, because I think sometimes with romance books, when you're reading them, it's when you're only getting the perspective of one person, you're like, oh my god, is the other person feeling the same way? What are they thinking in this moment? I think that kind of can add to the tension and the emotions and excitement you feel when reading a romance. And so this book didn't really have that, especially because so early on in the book you can tell that the both of them are very clearly attracted to one another. So from the start you know that they're into each other, so that kind of tension, will they, won't they, do they feel the same or not, that kind of thing is not really there, at least for the reader, because obviously when you're in their perspective they are thinking it, the characters themselves are unsure how the other's feeling. But as a reader it kind of took away from that tension, I guess. So I liked it in some moments, but also others I don't think it quite worked. But I also ended up watching the Sugar and Spice book club discussion on this book. They read it back in August. I didn't watch it live, but I watched it after the fact because I wanted to see what they thought about this book. And one of them brought up that they wished that the whole roommates aspect of this book was a bigger part, and I kind of agree. I kind of wish that there were more moments of them being in this apartment together and sharing this apartment together. I feel like there could have been more tension and things to do with that. I liked the fake dates and that aspect, but I think that there just could have been a different way of executing this roommates going on fake dates story. I think it could have been done a little bit differently to be a little bit more exciting. When I think about this book, a lot of my favorite moments are when they were in that apartment together, and when they're watching one of Rosie's Rosie's favorite shows together, and now he's gotten invested in it, and they're like talking about it, and him like cooking for her, and when he's sleeping on the couch and she's sleeping on the bed and they're laying there in the dark and he like calls out to her being like, hey, are you still awake? It was just so cute. Like, that's so like reminiscent of like childhood sleepovers, you know, and I just loved those moments, and I wish we had like more of a focus on the roommate aspect of it and like seen more of that. I don't know, I think like the roommates aspect and them going on these fake dates was fun, but I think it could have been executed slightly differently, where I liked it a lot more than I did. I also will say there were some really fun cameos in this book. If you've read The Spanish Love Deception, there are some characters that we know and love that show up in this book. And I love those moments. I don't care if they're like total fan service. It worked. I was having a great time. And I think it also makes sense. Like, they're literally in Catalina's apartment and sharing this apartment, and Rosie is Catalina's best friend. Like, I think it would be weird if we didn't see any moments between Rosie and Lucas and Catalina and Aaron. Like, I don't think it would have made sense if they didn't show up at all or weren't even mentioned. So I did really like those cameos, even if they were a bit fan servicey. They made me so happy. Honestly, those are probably the moments that I was like the most invested in this book, which may not be saying the best thing about this book, that I was the most invested when we saw other characters from the previous book, but we're not gonna dissect that. So yeah, overall, it was really fun, really cute. Definitely had its cheesy moments, and I think certain aspects of the plot could have been executed a bit differently to just have me a little bit more invested and have me like give it that 5-star, but I still really enjoyed it, and I think I'm gonna end up giving it like a 4. I think it's kind of a lower 4, but a 4 stars, I think, is what I'm gonna give it. And yeah, I enjoyed it. Definitely think it could have been done a little differently to where I would give it that 5-star, but still had a fun time. Happy I read it. Happy I have the final copy. I know like I think Casey gave it like 3 stars or 3.5 stars, and I think she ended up like canceling her pre-order, and I'm glad I didn't get to that point. Like, I'm happy that I have a copy of it. I'm happy to have it a part of my collection, but definitely didn't love it as much as I was hoping to. Alright, I wanted to quickly check in and chat and give some first updates on Emma, because I have not updated at all, I don't think, since I've started reading this. I actually started reading this back in August this year. I read like the first chapter and then just never continued on, but it's now November, like I said in my last update, and I started it over from the beginning at the beginning of this month, and so we're back to reading this, and I've actually made progress this time. I'm about 100 pages in, and I'm on chapter 19, so this book, you're following Emma, as you would perhaps assume. You're following Emma Woodhouse, and her governess has actually recently gotten married. She married Mr. Weston, and now she's Mrs. Weston. And Emma feels responsible for that match. She feels as though she's the reason they got together, and she's very like happy and proud of herself for kind of playing a matchmaker in that way. And at the beginning of the book, Emma decides because of that to start to maybe play matchmaker for other people. And she's kind of advised like, maybe don't get involved in other people's business, but she's like, yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna do it anyway. So she becomes friends with this girl, Harriet Smith, and decides to try and find a match for Harriet. And then chaos kind of ensues from there. And so far, I'm definitely liking this. I was definitely intimidated to pick this up, even though I've read Jane Austen before. It's still a classic. So I was like, is the pea brain gonna be able to understand what's going on? But it is. Great work. I'm also like right now very distracted. Since starting this again at the beginning of the month, I've been very distracted because when I'm filming this update, it is the Tuesday before my sister's wedding. She's getting married this weekend. So there's a lot of distractions up in the brain, but even with all of those distractions, I'm still like enjoying this book, picking it up and understanding what's going on, even though I haven't really been able to give it as much attention as I maybe want to, but I'm still liking it. I'm having a good time. I think it's really interesting seeing the different opinions on this book and also like Emma as a character. She definitely is a character that people really love or really hate, and I kind of understand both because the whole premise of this book is her like meddling in other people's business that she has no business meddling in. Like, she's getting involved and affecting people's lives and affecting people's decisions for her own like personal, not even so much gain, more so just to make herself feel good and make her feel like she's a successful matchmaker and that she's really good at this. Not so much because she wants to help people, it's more so for herself. And that can be very frustrating to read because she's influencing other people's happiness and other people's decisions because she wants to be right. And she's definitely like convincing Harriet and other people of feeling certain ways about certain things that maybe they wouldn't feel if Emma wasn't influencing them so much. So it is definitely frustrating sometimes to read her character, because it's like you kind of want to just tell her to stay out of it, like it's none of her business. But I also feel like already at this point in the book, she's had moments where she's been like, hey, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Like maybe I shouldn't have been influencing this decision. And I mean, I don't think she's fully there. I still think there's a lot of room for her to grow in this book, but you can tell that she's already having those like, oh, like maybe I'm the problem. Did Anti-Hero by Taylor Swift, was that written about Emma? We don't know. So for my feelings on Emma, I think she's a very interesting character. She definitely has like frustrated me throughout this book with certain things that she's been doing, but I also don't hate her. So I'm interested to see how her character like continues to grow throughout the book. I definitely think there's a lot of room for growth here. I mean, if there isn't any growth with her character, then I definitely am probably not gonna like her by the end of this, but I definitely think that that's where this book is kind of going. And then there's Mr. Knightley, George Knightley, who's, you know, the mans of this book. Some people think that he is better than Mr. Darcy, so we'll see about that. But where I'm at right now, like the last chapter that I read is kind of the first instance where we maybe see that Mr. Knightley might have some feelings for Emma, because they've just had this argument. Basically, Miss Taylor, now Mrs. Weston, Emma's governess that just got married, her now husband, Mr. Weston, has a son that he had with his first wife that has passed. And his son was actually then raised by his late wife's parents. And he hasn't seen his son in years. And his son was planning on coming to visit them and then was just like, LOL JK, I'm not coming. So they're obviously like very upset about the fact that he isn't visiting them, and like Mr. Weston thinks like, oh, he'll just come and visit in a few months, like he will visit again. And Emma, for Mr. and Mrs. Weston's sake, for her friend's sake, she's like, yeah, he will. Like, he will come and visit them. He's probably like a very nice young man. Like, he's probably great. He'll probably come and visit. Whether she actually believes it or not is entirely different. I think she just wants to believe it on behalf of her friends. And Mr. Knightley is kind of arguing with her about it, being like, no, like he's probably not that great. He's probably never going to visit them. He's gonna just continue to push it off. And he's been raised by people who aren't the greatest. They're very arrogant and just maybe not the nicest people. And he probably is raised to be that way too. So he's not gonna come. And he doesn't really believe that either. He doesn't even know this man. He's just more so, I think, saying that because Emma is speaking so highly of him. So neither of them really believe what they're arguing for, but it has been interesting to see Mr. Knightley like maybe show that perhaps he's a little jealous of this man, and to see like those first little glimpses that maybe Mr. Knightley has feelings for Emma. So I'm really excited to keep going. I'm excited to see more of that happening, because as of right now, like that was like the first thing we've really seen of that. So now that that's happened, I'm really excited to keep going and see that kind of romance develop, and I'm hoping to continue to see Emma grow as a character and to maybe recognize some of her mistakes that she's made throughout this book, and I imagine she's going to continue to make more, but I think she's going to be an interesting character to follow. Do I like her? I don't know. We'll have to see, I feel like, by the end of the book. She's definitely a character that I think is going to have quite an interesting arc that I feel like I'm going to have to see that entire story to the end to see really how I feel about her, but I'm definitely like interested. I'm having a good time. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see if it's a 5-star. It's possible. I don't think I've had many 5 stars in this 5-star predictions series, so I'm really hoping that this is a 5-star. Okay, folks, it's time for me to chat about Emma. I have finished it. It is completed. She read a classic this year. I think this is the only classic I've read this year. It's fine. If I just read one a year, I feel like, you know, I should be proud of myself. But yes, I finished Emma, and I'm so happy to report that I really enjoyed it. I had such a fun time reading this book. This book was just so much fun to read, I think because of just how like chaotic and messy it was. There's a huge cast of characters in this book, and the tangled web of all of the love interests, and not only just like people who are interested in each other, but Emma trying to connect who might be interested in each other, and her trying to maybe push certain people to be interested in another, and no one really knowing what's actually being felt by everybody. It was so much fun to see like all of these relationships actually develop in the way that they did. And it was so fun to see like all of the different characters who were involved in certain things, and maybe Emma wasn't the only one scheming and getting involved in relationships. It was just so messy and I loved it. I will say I was talking about Emma as a character, I think in my like other update for this book, and that she's a character that a lot of people either really love or really hate because she kind of pokes her nose in business that she has no business being a part of, and she's definitely like influencing other people's lives and causing a lot of problems for a lot of people actually. But I do think her as a character was interesting to see throughout this story because I do think that by the end of the novel she has realized like all of the faults and all of the things that she has done wrong, and I think is very much happy that things have worked out in the way that they are, but is realizing like that still wasn't okay for her to do. So I definitely think there was that growth there. It was also just fun to read about a character who was so nosy and was so willing to instigate certain things, because even though that's not how I would maybe act, and there would be frustrating situations and things where I'd be like, Emma, just like don't get involved, it doesn't affect you, but it was still fun to read. I think it added to the mess. I also loved seeing the relationship between Emma and Mr. Knightley develop. I really enjoyed like the little pieces and glimpses we saw throughout this book where you could tell that the two of them were maybe starting to develop feelings for each other. I think Mr. Knightley kind of loved Emma this whole time really, but it was really fun to, from Emma's perspective, see her like not even realize it herself, but like through what she was thinking, and as readers we can see that like, oh, like maybe there are some feelings that she hasn't even realized yet. Like there's this part where they're at this party with a bunch of people and Emma is thinking to herself that like nobody compares to Mr. Knightley and that he must draw like everyone's eyes, like how could you not be looking at him and admiring him, and just like going on and on about how great he is, and I'm like, girl, but we don't love him? I don't think so. So yeah, I really loved seeing Emma's feelings for Mr. Knightley, whether they were known to her or not. See them kind of develop, like have these moments where she might have been jealous but not even realize like why that was, and have these moments where her feelings for him were so clear to the readers but not to her. And then there's also the iconic line, if I loved you less, I might be able to talk about it more. I can't. It's so good. I was just waiting this whole book to get to that line. It is stunning. Mr. Knightley, Mr. George Knightley made several points. Do I think he's superior to Mr. Darcy? I don't know. That's pushing it. But he's very close. I did love him. I also really loved the way everything like ended and wrapped up, and how all of these characters ended up at the end of this book. Even though I did have a moment where I was like, wow, if Emma just like kept her mouth shut, all of this could have been avoided and we could have probably just ended up at the same end results anyways. But that was part of the fun, seeing Emma grow as a character and change and evolve, and being able to go through this mess with her, and I thought it was really fun. I also think this would be such a fun book to reread, especially because there's so many situations that Emma, who we're in the perspective of most of this book, we don't see or we don't know about because Emma doesn't know about, and I think it would be interesting to reread this knowing the outcome of all of these situations and be able to pick up on those things throughout the whole book. I think it would be fun to revisit in that way. As for my rating on this book, I simply can't decide. I put it through the Caw Pile rating system. I don't know why I always have to do this when I say Caw Pile. It's just part of the thing. But I put it through the Caw Pile rating system and it came out as a 4.5, which I think makes sense. I don't know if this is a 5-star read, especially like it's hard not to compare it to the only other Austen that I've read, which is Pride and Prejudice, and obviously that is a 5-star. It's one of my favorite books of all time, and I can't help but sit here and compare this to that, and I know that I don't feel as strongly about this as I do Pride and Prejudice, so I think for that reason I'm not going to give it 5 stars, but I still really enjoyed it, and like I said, I would love to reread this at some point in the future. So I think I'm going to give it 4.5 stars, but I probably will like round up on Goodreads because you can't give half stars on Goodreads, but I still really enjoyed it. I had such a good time reading this. I definitely was intimidated going into it because it is a classic, and that's just not the types of books that I read a lot, so I was like, oh no, am I going to have a problem getting into it? But I really enjoyed my time reading this, and I'm excited to watch some of the adaptations as well. I'm really excited to see the one from 2020, but I know some people feel very strongly about the different adaptations, so excited to watch those. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and while reading this, it made me even more excited to pick up the other Jane Austens that I have yet to read, so that was a nice feeling, and yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Definitely, I don't know if it's 5-star, I don't know. I feel like if I reread it, it could be a 5-star, but I think just like on initial read, I think it's like a 4.5, which I know is very specific, but like that's just what I do. So that is going to conclude part 3 of this 5-star predictions series. To kind of wrap up this vlog for the backlisted title, I read Emma by Jane Austen and gave it 4.5 stars. Really enjoyed it. excited to revisit it in the future and also watch some of the adaptations. If you have a favorite Emma adaptation, definitely let me know. And for the new release in this vlog, I read The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armis, and I think I'm gonna settle on a 4-star. It's a very low 4-star, and to be honest, once I have some distance between me reading this book, I may lower it to like a 3.5 or something, but the memories of how much fun I had reading this book are still like fresh in my head, so I think I'm gonna settle with a 4. I definitely think this book could have been executed in a way that was that 5-star rating for me, but still had a fun time, still thought it was cute and had funny moments as well. It does feel a little weird to have both of these books in this video and only have a 1/2 star separating them, which is why I feel like I should maybe lower my rating for this to a 3.5. But I just feel like the way that I like went into these books, my expectations for them, and just like my mentality of what these books were going to be were very different. So yes, this is a 4 and this is a 4.5, but they're very different 4s in my mind. I also wanted to show what the current like ratings for all of these books is looking like. I definitely have not been very successful in picking my 5-star predictions for this year. I've really only had one. I mean, I'm happy that I've enjoyed most of the books that were on this list, whether they were 5 stars or not. The only one that I didn't really love that I've read off of this list is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, but other than that, I mean, I've at least enjoyed a lot of the books off of the list, but I've only had one 5-star, so I'm not doing great. But hopefully with the final episode of this series coming, hopefully by the end of next year, I'm hoping I can get it up by the end of 2022. But I'm hoping with that final episode, we at least have one more 5-star. The final episode for me is a big deal. We have one of my, like, someone I consider one of my favorite authors of all time, definitely like writes my comfort books, and I am just like dreading the day that I read a book from her and I don't love it. It's something that I fear. So I'm hoping that I enjoy that one. And then we also have a book that's been on my TBR for almost 10 years now, and there's just this big like anticipation for me to read this book, and I just want to love it so much. So the finale of this 5-star prediction series is hopefully gonna be a good one. It's high stakes for me. No one else cares that much except for me, but I'm excited and very nervous to start that final 5-star predictions vlog. But I think that that is going to conclude part 3 of this 5-star prediction series, and if you've made it this far into the video, leave a taco emoji, because the dog in this book, his name is Taco, and he was honestly like the highlight of this book, to be honest. So leave a taco emoji down below. And also, once again, thank you so much to Ana Luisa for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to check out the link at the top of my description to give a browse on the Ana Luisa website, and also you can use my code WITHLOVE20 to get 20% off of your order. But that is going to be it for this video, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!